Hello everyone, welcome back to MYEP English Science Vocab, a list of about 50 key words for learning science in English. This is part 3, and just to remind you, words on the list are highlighted in green and other useful words are highlighted in red. This is an alphabetical list, and for part 3 we start on the letter M. Molecule. A molecule is the smallest unit of a compound, or a natural unit of an element. Molecules behave a bit like atoms, but they are made of pieces and can be broken up by reactions. This is the science of chemistry and chemical reactions. No chemistry can break up an atom though. For that you need nuclear reactions. Here we can see a range of molecules. The top row are natural units of elements, the way we find these elements in nature. The bottom row are compounds, which are molecules made up of different elements, and there are many familiar compounds in this row. Neutron. A neutron is a particle in the nucleus that has zero charge. Neutrons were the last part of the atom to be discovered. They stopped the positive protons from repelling themselves apart because of charge. Sometimes a proton and an electron can join together to make a neutron. Nucleus. The nucleus is the center of an atom. It is made of protons and neutrons. The electrons fly around the outside, but most of the mass of the atom is in the nucleus because electrons are very, very small. Even though most of an atom is really empty space, the forces between them is what allows them to make solid objects. Observation. Observation is looking at things carefully to learn more about them. Science is all about controlled observations to help us understand exactly why things happen. To do it right, we need to not only look very carefully, but also make sure we are looking at the right things and know what they are telling us. We also need to record everything we find out so that others can check it and use it. Organism. An organism is a scientific name for a living thing, a chemical object that makes copies of itself using energy from the environment. On Earth, all organisms that we know of are DNA based. This is a chemical way to store information to pass on to the next generation. Even we human beings are organisms, we just wear clothes and live in houses. Organisms can be very, very simple, like these one-cell bacteria, or they can be very, very complex, like us, but they are all different types of organism. Particle. A particle is a very, very, very small piece of something. In science, a particle is usually a part of an atom, although not always. There are particles we hear about a lot, like electrons and photons, and others that we don't, like muons and gluons. Because they are smaller than an atom, we often call them subatomic particles. Photosynthesis. This is how plants make food from sunlight. It comes from the Greek words for light and put together. Plants take water and nutrients out of the ground and carbon out of the air and use the sun's energy to turn it into sugars the plant can use. The important chemical in this process is called chlorophyll, and it is green, which is why plants are almost always green. Proton. A proton is a particle with a positive charge that you find inside an atom. The number of protons tells you what kind of element you have. If you take a proton away, you have changed the atom into a different element. Some elements do this by themselves. These are called radioactive elements. Quantum mechanics. Okay, really, you don't need to know this word until maybe 4th year of high school, but I'm going to throw it in here because if movies are going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. Very, very simply, quantum mechanics is how science, especially physics, changes when things are very, very small, like smaller than a human hair, 1,000 times smaller than a human hair. So, quantum mechanics is really weird and it's really, really hard as well. If you decide to look at quantum mechanics, I wish you very, very good luck indeed. Radiation. Radiation is a kind of invisible energy. Some kinds of radiation are harmless and even very useful, like the radio waves we use to communicate, or even the light we use to see. But some kinds of radiation are very damaging and can cause serious illness. All radiation is part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and what changes is the amount of energy. Scientist. A scientist is a person who does science, usually as their job. It doesn't have to be their job though, and some of the great discoveries of history have been made by amateur scientists. This doesn't happen so much now because new science is really hard to do and really expensive. But the great scientists of history have changed the way we live. Solar system. The solar system is our local star and its planets, and some other stuff too. The Sun formed about 4.5 billion years ago, and Earth and the other planets cooled out of what was left. The Sun is 99.9% of all the mass in the solar system, and there are 8 planets and many moons orbiting around it in space. And that is part 3 of our vocabulary list. Part 4 will take us to the end of the alphabet. I hope you have found these words useful, and if you like them, please share them with your friends who will also find them useful. See you in part 4.